promised, here is the second part of our journey. Now, if you missed the previous video where we talk about the first part of the journey on how from our monumental moment of frustration, we got to be on a plane on our way to the US in our life, living in endless summer, make sure that you click on the tab above this video, go back and watch that video first. Because not only do we talk about the first part of our journey, but we're also talking to Bob Proctor about visualization and how important that is when it comes to the law of attraction. So we're on the plane and we land in San Diego. So here we are at the live event. And remember, our intention is that we want to meet this Frank guy somehow and convince him to mentor us.
Really not thinking we could though, like we're the newbies sitting up the back.
Exactly.
Geez, like literally sitting up the back.
And then a gift gets put into our way, and Frank announces that he's doing a mastermind. We had to apply to become a member of the mastermind. The only hurdle that we had was that it was a $2,700 a month commitment. And we were over here basically on the smell of an oily rag. We had no money, and we had the next best thing to money.
Yeah.
Credit cards.
Yeah. But I was like, this isn't even an option. It's not even an option to do this. And our partner at the time and I were just like, oh, well, it's a shame. Probably we won't get in anyway, because we're the newbies. And I mean, $2,000 we'd spent a couple of months before was the biggest amount of money we'd ever spent on something like that. So it wasn't even an option. Meanwhile, Natalie's filling out the form and running up and we're like, what is she doing? What is she doing?
So the guys are sitting next to me and they're like, we can't really afford this, how much extra do we, and they're talking about the how. How are we going to make this happen? And of course, all I can think of is how great a manifester I am that this opportunity has come up so quickly. So I'm writing this compelling reason as to why Frank should include us in the mastermind. And as I get up to walk away, the boys are like, where are you going? I'm like, are you kidding me? This is why we're here. I can't believe this opportunity has come up so quickly. Like, I don't worry about it. We will figure out the how.
And like I've said a million times, if it wasn't for you to have the balls to do that, that was a monumental step.
Yes.
We did that.
So we got accepted into the mastermind group. And we also got introduced to a group of friends that are still our really close friends today. And they were also in San Diego at the time, and everyone was working on a campaign for their own products. So we really just moved here, became sponges like our intention was on the plane, and just even in a social situation, we were learning. Yeah. We were part of this mastermind, we were learning everything we had to, and so we were all in.
Even though we were still about 1 billion times out of our depth.
We were so out of our depth. Actually, we were so outside our comfort zone that there was no comfort zone, because we didn't have the money to pay people to do things like build websites and learn how to edit videos and all those kind of things. We had to do that ourselves.
But a lot of the time I've noticed this in life with success, particularly, ignorance is bliss. I mean, if I knew a quarter of what I know now, I would have gone, do not do that. You will fail. Yes. It's just there's too much stacked against you. But thank God we didn't know that.
Exactly. And so here we are, we'd be working from our bedroom 10, 12, 14-hour days. I would go to sleep at night with the sound of Glenn on the keyboards, and he would wake up in the morning to the sound of me on the keyboards, because we just basically roll out of bed and keep going. And so, we were stretching ourselves so far. Like, we had to learn, all the components it takes to be able to launch my movies to the world. And there were so many times where we were so completely stressed that, and we understood how important our vibration was and how we had to stay positive, that we would, leave the house, we'd get in the car, we'd go and get a coffee, we'd go down to the dog beach, because, there's nothing that makes you feel happier faster than seeing dogs frolicking with big smiles on their faces on the beach. And we'd start to have these discussions in present tense as if the launch was already done and was already a success. And we talked about, basically taking our families on holidays and the change that we were making in the world and the type of customers that we were attracting.
The amount of customers, the amount of how big our community was. It was incredible.
And the respect we were getting from our peers and the how we would be rewarded when we got back home, and and what would meet us back when we got there.
Yeah.
And so we have to get into that vibration, and then once we were sort of into that and really feeling that, then we could go back home and start to
challenge up there. It was like a monumental wall that we had to climb every day.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's funny, people go, why didn't you quit? It was like, to us, it was just like not an option. It wasn't what if we fail, it was just keep going, keep going. Was no option to fail. We had so much debt.
Yeah.
We were really, really, really stressed about it.
And we had no money to pay for equipment. And so when we were, filming videos back then that we were putting online to promote my movies, we would the place that we ended up being able to afford was underneath the flight path of San Diego Airport. So every few minutes we'd have this plane going over the top of us. So I remember we were in our living room, we had those lights that you buy from the hardware that are as hot as the sun, and then we'd have a little makeshift teleprompter, and we'd be sitting there filming, and then as soon as we could hear the planes coming, we'd quickly turn the lights off, open the windows, turn on the fan, pat ourselves down, and then as soon as the plane we go right, we close the windows, turns the fans off, turn the hot lights that are as hot as the sun back on, and go. So it would take us 20 to 30 takes just to get one video done. Because we were underneath the flight.
And what you do when you got no choice.
Exactly. And so we were working like this for really hard for the last 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
And then we get to the launch, and we were just,
Even the night before, 4 hours before, it's not going to happen. Whatever, some technical thing happened, it's just not going to happen. All these months of build up, and literally hours before we're done. I'm like, no. And imagine when you can't control any of it. I mean, we had no control over this. And thank goodness, I can't remember the exact details of what happened, but literally an hour before, everything was fine, we went live. And then brought in nearly 3,000 customers in the first 24 hours, which was, oh my God, it's worth it. Yay, it's working.
So all this work that we've done, we get to the morning of our launch, and this is the do or die. This is everything's on the line. This is where we get to see if it's going to happen. Now, at the time, we actually, I remember looking at the bank statement, our credit card statements that morning, and we'd actually hit $120,000 on credit cards, which is what we committed. Like, we risked all of that so that we can make sure that the launch would work. And then, of course, we get there and everything like this is going to happen, and then our email provider decided to close down for maintenance the morning of our launch.
And not tell us.
So we were freaking out, and not only could we not get our emails out and try and stagger the amount of traffic, so that we wouldn't have everyone going there at once to crash the server, but no one was getting their confirmation emails that they'd bought the product. So we had a moment of elation, and then it's like bang, down again.
I think I'd only seen you cry a few times ever in life until that day.
I cried. I was like, I thought we'd made it, but no, we didn't realize that our journey was still continuing.
And the thing is, that sounds really bad. That was nothing. What happened in the days after that, you are not going to believe. To say devastating is an understatement. But I think we'll share that in the next video.
I think
really finish off and get to the good part.
But let's pause on the story for now, because I want to go into a video that I recorded with Dr. Joe Dispenza, which actually goes into the science behind the law of attraction. What I love about Dr. Joe is that what we teach now, he actually can scientifically explain how that works. So now this is not woo-woo, new age, mumbo jumbo. Now we actually can measure and understand why, visualization and everything works. And we have some brain maps in here as well that I want to show, that he'll show you, that actually explain exactly what's going on in our mind when we're doing this. So why don't we go over to the video with Joe now. So I'm here with my friend Dr. Joe Dispenza. Joe, thank you so much for giving us some time.
You're welcome.
Because I know this workshop is very demanding on you. So I'm really glad that you were able to give us some time to answer some questions.
Happy to be here.
Now, you may know Dr. Joe Dispenza from the movie What the Bleep, or What the Bleep Down the Rabbit Hole, which was very mind-boggling. Now, Joe actually is a chiropractor and has an active practice. Also has a Bachelor of Science with an emphasis on neuroscience. And you have a very keen interest in sciences like epigenetics and neuropsychology. So what interests you in this kind of science?
Well, I think that the new science points the finger at possibility.
Right.
And just the old model of the way science was discovered and processed really separated mind and matter. And I think that people are waking up, and there's a unification between the two. And neuroplasticity and epigenetics and quantum physics really points the finger at possibility and empowers people to begin to understand that they can change and really live the life that they want.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, and we talk, especially with the Mind Movies community, we talk a lot about the law of attraction. And what I love about spending time with you is that you can actually scientifically explain why everything I teach actually works. So from a scientific point of view, how does the law of attraction work?
Well, everything in reality is vibrating at a frequency,
Right.
and everything is energy. And thoughts have an electrical charge, and feelings have a magnetic charge, and how you think and how you feel broadcasts an electromagnetic signature. So your brain is pretty much a record of the past. It's a reflection of your environment. It's an artifact. And so your emotions that are stored in the body are also a record of the past, because emotions are a record of past experiences. So most people spend the majority of their time biologically in the past. So when you begin to envision a possible future scenario, your brain begins to work in different ways, and you begin to construct a model of something that you want to experience. And as you begin to create this vision, the brain begins to freeze that picture inside, and that's called an intention. Intention is basically getting clear on what you want.
Yeah.
If you're truly impassioned by that vision, you should come out of your resting state. And the moment you come out of that resting state and you marry that clear intention with an elevated emotion, now your brain and body are no longer in the past. They're actually now genetically and neurologically in the future.
So, when you're driving down the road in your car and you hear a song that comes on the radio, and when that song comes on the radio, it reminds you of a time in your life where you were 16 years old and you had a boyfriend, or you were 22 years old and you were in college and you were out with your friends. That's called an associative memory. The song then activates a set of circuits in your brain to remember the past. Well, the Mind Movies works in the same exact way, but instead of remembering a past, if you watch that Mind movie enough times, once you hear that song, you're going to begin to remember a future. And biologically, it's going to look exactly the same in the brain.
So then, at the same time, you're broadcasting a whole new electromagnetic signature. Now, the quantum field responds to who you're being. And your state of being is how you think and how you feel. Thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. So we broadcast different states of being on a moment-to-moment basis. It takes the marriage of a clear intention and an elevated emotion that begins to change everything from energy to neurology to chemistry to genes to body.
Right.
So it starts with that vision. I mean, the vision that we create in our mind is the blueprint of our destiny. There is a process of unlearning that requires a little bit of awareness and managing your inner states. So you have to maintain that modified state of mind and body, and that's the art.
Okay. So I also hear you talk about emotions as well. So how important is emotions in this whole process?
Well, some people use emotions to keep them anchored to the past. They have
Right.
experiences that produce emotions. Those emotions linger into moods. They turn into temperaments. They become personality traits, and they define themselves by their emotions. But that's not who we are. That's just residue from the past. So then, if you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings become the means of thinking, then for the most part, your body is basically living in the past, and you can't create a new future holding on to the emotions of the past. But then when you transmute those limited emotions of self-doubt or unworthiness or insecurity into an elevated emotion, now the elevated emotion is the energy that drives you to the future. So I think about intention like the compass. It's the direction, it's the sail. And then the emotion is the wind behind the sail. So the more passionate we become, the more inspired we become, the more clear we are in our vision, the more precise we are at landing at our destiny.
Yeah.
If you go to the next slide at 4 minutes and 29 seconds, you don't have to be a neuroscientist to see that this person is caught up in an inner event. And it is the Mind movie that's beginning to prime her brain so that the brain is really beginning to lay down the tracks neurochemically, and the amplitudes of energy that she's experiencing in this moment are greater than any experience that she's had in her past. And because of that, the experience then is reorganizing the circuitry in the brain, so the brain is moving out of the past into the future. So again, at 4 minutes and 35 seconds, you can see the same patterns taking place. This is not normal. And by the way, because it's not normal, doesn't mean that abnormal is bad. We can say that this isn't natural. We could say that this is supernatural. And we see plenty of our students, when they engage in the mind movies like this, that they're having amplitudes of energy that are very high, and we know then that their brain is really, really beginning to organize in new ways.
I know after I saw The Secret, that was one of the things when we talk about the law of attraction that really sort of resonated for me, is that when I'm thinking about my future or visualizing my future, without the emotion, it's really ineffective. It's more like it's a wish, because you need to be feeling that emotion to be able to, to send that out into the universe or out into the quantum field, which again is one of the reasons that I think a mind movie is so powerful as well.
And then at 4 minutes and 55 seconds, you can see these high amplitudes that are probably 50 times or more normal. Now, when you have an experience where the amplitude of energy is that high, it begins to break down the hardwired programs that have been habits of thought or habits of emotions or emotional addictions. Those amplitudes of energy reorganize the hardwired circuitry, break them down, and begin to send strong emotional elevated signals to the body. So the body is beginning to embody a new chemistry, and it's being conditioned now to a new mind. And again, at 5 minutes and 5 seconds, now listen, 5 minutes and 5 seconds into a mind movie, if this is happening to you at 5 minutes and 5 seconds into your mind movie, after the song has been playing, we know then that something's about to happen in your future at some time, because now your brain and body are already in that future. So take a look at about 3/4 of the way through this strip chart, and you can see then those amplitudes are definitely not normal. And this person had a full-on IMAX experience, and she was completely in her mind movie. She was dreaming the whole entire thing, and her brain was processing a new stream of consciousness.
And when you create your own mind movie, what you're doing is you're creating something that has a lot of meaning too. So the music moves you, and the pictures move you, and all of those things are to cause you to come out of your resting state. And the moment you come out of your resting state, you're giving your body a sampling of the event emotionally. And your body, as the unconscious mind, really doesn't know the difference between an actual event that creates the emotion and the emotion that you're creating by thought alone in that moment. If you're getting an intention and you're making that intention so real, and you're marrying that intention with the emotion, then it's branding the brain neurologically, and it's emotionally signaling the body. And your body literally is there. In that moment, it is beginning to record the future. And the big question is, why isn't the law of attraction working for me? And it's usually related to two things. The person cannot find the sweet spot of the present moment because they're so preoccupied with all the things they have in their life.
Yeah.
Or their energy's so divided with every person, everything, and that they can't really manage their energy. So if you begin to go within, you begin to call energy back to yourself, and if you're really concentrating and really paying attention, sooner or later you'll fall into the present moment, and that's where all possibilities exist. I think when people really realize that they created whatever it is, as my daughter would always say, she always says, Anna, I'm amazed that it was my mind that created it. And when you start realizing that all the things outside of you are incidental, and you realize that you're the empowered being that's doing it, I think it gets more about the process and the skill than it does really about the event. And I think that's what people really want. I think we all want to experience a certain level of wholeness.
Yeah.
And when you're whole and you're happy from within, then you're no longer waiting for something outside of you.
So you've seen mind movies and you've played with them before. What do you think is probably one of the most powerful parts of a mind movie?
I think, for me personally, it's the movement. It's a dimension. I think that when, my staff is now putting some mind movies together for themselves, and I was so moved and touched by their own individual creativity.
Yes.
And you look across and you look at that person and you go, wow, that's their dreams, and I can participate and help. So I like the dimension that it's moving. I like the dimension that there's timing. I'm a big timing person. Of course, the sound and music, but I think really for me that it tells a story. And because it's sequential and it's in a media format like that, I think you're really pretty much experiencing, your own heroism or your own heroic state. And I think that if enough of us do that enough times, I think that we become our own heroes.
Absolutely. Joe, thank you so much for
You're
joining
welcome.
me today. It's an absolute pleasure sitting down and talking with you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us, guys. And I'll be talking to you very soon.
So if you haven't done so already, go ahead and let us know where to send the 6 pre-made mind movies. You can download those immediately. Start feeling the results, experiencing how powerful Mind Movies is. So if you haven't done so, go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah, and in the next few days, we'll be sending you another video to finding the final chapter in our Mind Movies journey. So you'll actually get to find out what was even worse than 3,000 support emails.
lowest point of our whole
and how we got through that. And I also will be revisiting with Bob Proctor, with Joe Vitale and John Assaraf in that video. And I also want to give you some specific tips that from our story that we've learned from our journey that you can actually apply yourself so you can start seeing some amazing success in your life as well. Plus, I have a little surprise for you in the next video too. So keep an eye on your inbox because that'll be coming out in the next couple of days.
See you soon.
Now, when you can surround future events with gratitude, you're basically surrounding those events with an air of expectation, like it's already done.
This is the coolest thing I've come across in the longest time when it comes for personal transformation.